Now, I did a video on this. It was like an initial reaction when they first had that little teaser video of just Joaquin Phoenix. And, I also covered how there was these leaked images from set and a little video, and how it seemed like it was kind of going in the direction of, I guess, being sort of a mirror of the kind of political situation that was going on today.
Sure.
Now, I'll just say this. After watching the movie, it really didn't feel like that. To me, it didn't feel like a direct analogy for what was going on today. It seemed much more of a general thing. And I remember also saying, like, well, why does the Joker look different? He's not the definitive Joker.
Sure.
Right? Even if I like the movie, I won't be able to say, oh, this is the one true thing. Again, that doesn't really matter after seeing it. It's just a really good take on Joker in general. It doesn't, and I don't think it was ever meant to be the one definitive version. It's just, hey, a good version.
Yeah, on the whole issue of the themes surrounding it, I actually think you were pretty spot on with your initial video, in that it's sort of like a 99% versus the 1% type of thing. It's not a perfect mirror, but that sort of like the downtrodden versus the uber wealthy, or the downtrodden versus the sort of beneficiaries of society, is like this ongoing theme, not just in cinema, but in literature for the longest time. Like it's like the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie. It is the 99% versus the 1%. It's the powerful versus the weak. That's sort of what the story's getting at.
I mean, Robin Hood is probably the earliest example of that I could think of. It's just an eternal thing. There's always going to be haves and have-nots.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of societal, like, differences, yeah, Robin Hood is one great example. I'm sure there's stuff going back earlier than what we can think of. But you even go back to, like, ancient Greek myths. They're all about, like, the weakest guy taking over the strongest guy. Like, the Odyssey is about Odysseus defeating the ogre, the Cyclops, and just...
We always want to root for the underdog.
Yeah, no, that's, I think, sort of a universal thing. And that's such a big thing in comic book movies. It's just, you rarely see, first of all, Thomas Wayne as being the bad guy, if you were really thinking about it as just a sort of a traditional black and white superhero thing. Obviously, the Joker is by no means a good character, or a good guy character. He is a great character, but evil as evil can be.
Yeah,
I mean...
I think that's the kind of thing this movie gets at, too, that there's evil on all sides, I guess. I don't want to politicize that at the risk of sounding similar to certain statements.
Well, look, I think, first of all, we should say, and because, like, realistically, we're in a point of political turmoil right now where if we don't explicitly say, oh, hey, the Joker was an evil dude, we do not condone his actions. If we don't say that, people are going to take what we have to say out of context. People are going to take this the wrong way. But, yeah, I mean, the movie is less about good versus evil. It's more about becoming evil. It's more about how, like, societal pressures, how being just attacked by those around you sort of manifests evil.
Right.
And
to me, it kind of represented what happens when the caretakers of the city stop caring, what all the apathy leads to. The rot of society in all the lowest points is what comes to get them. What happens when what was it, when the chickens come to roost? Is that a phrase?
That sounds familiar. I'm not sure what precisely you're getting at, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, or when the chickens come to feed, or when the hens come to roost. I don't know.
Yeah, that's basically it. Because you see all these people, it's just saying, like, it starts out right in the beginning of the movie. They say Gotham's got a huge rat problem because there's garbage all over the streets, so much so that they have super rats. Okay, they have super rats. And that's kind of just mirroring, like, all the crime that's going on, all of the neglect. And it's because the people at the top, supposedly, aren't doing what they should be. They're just saying, oh, these people should bring themselves out like we did.
And, it's pretty fit that it was set in the 80s when Ronald Reagan was president, when Reaganomics was in full swing, when people legitimately... I think that was, like, the last point in American history where people legitimately, like, largely believed that the wealthy could actually help the poor on their own. That the wealthiest Americans were, like, the job creators, were the givers of, like, opportunity.
And it's funny because the Joker's character is literally, we live in a society. That's always the cause of him coming about.
Yeah, basically one way or another, at least with any of the modern interpretations of the character, especially with both Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix's version.
Yeah. No acid here.
So the media largely, and again, I say the media as a generalized term, this is mostly just like corporate sort of center-left media outlets sort of selling the story. But basically weeks before anyone saw the movie, before anyone could really tell you what the movie was about, beyond what we saw in the trailers, they sort of made the point that it was like made to be a Trump supporter's wet dream, or it was made to like sort of show support for incels, and it's just
I'm shaking
ridiculous.
My head right now.
Yeah, I honestly, we're not in the same room right now, and I can feel you shaking your head right now. It's just ridiculous.
So funny because I thought from the leaked video that we had gotten early on that it was going to be just the opposite. That it was going to be, because remember, it showed in the subway people holding up signs that said anti-fascist, eat the rich. No, we didn't actually see that in the movie. The subway scene was actually just more of him, causing a fight to break out and then escaping in the chaos. It wasn't a protest. It was people going to a protest, but it wasn't happening there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think at the like again, maybe I just sort of spaced out on the signs. I don't think anyone deliberately related to any sort of modern movements. I don't remember seeing any Antifa or similar signs sort of strewn about the protests. For all we know, they could have removed that because of criticisms of the trailer, because they were trying to make it more focused on this 80s version of Gotham.
Well, I do kind of remember reading something about test screenings and a couple people who saw it having concerns that it was a bit too on the nose with what goes on in the news today.
Right.
So who knows? Maybe that had something to do with it. But like we said, the whole class versus class thing has been going on for ages. That's just humanity.
Literally centuries. Like literally centuries. You go back
millennia.
Yeah, I mean, basically, as long as humanity's been around, as long as societies have existed, there have been multiple classes. Usually,
even with the pharaohs in Egypt, you had the whole slave class.
No, it's Marxist theory. It's feudalism. You have arguably always the strongest people on top taking advantage of the weak but many. And that's like just such a prevailing theme. That's so human. Of course, people are going to take an issue with that if they are the ones on top. Of course, people are going to sort of rally behind this character if they're the ones on bottom. But it's just ridiculous that people were drawing this Trump conclusion, this incel conclusion, without even seeing the movie. And
he debunks that directly, because when he's on the Murray Franklin show at the end, he says, "I have no political motivation whatsoever. I'm not political. I'm just me right now." And even in the context of the movie itself, it's everyone else who politicizes what he's doing, when really the movie's just about him and his own personal, mental struggle that's, caused by this neglect, of course. But really, he, as a character, has nothing to do with any of that.
Yeah. And honestly, that's another pretty good message. It's sort of talking about how society feels the need to politicize everything. And it's sort of showing, it's like putting a mirror back on the media itself for, like, sort of politicizing this movie that really the only political message it's spreading is, oh, hey, we probably shouldn't fuck over poor people,
Yeah.
And again, speaking of political motivations, like the only sort of inherently political thing, it's a left-leaning movie if there is any political leaning to it. Like the whole fact that we're treating poor people poorly, and that the poor are becoming more downtrodden because the rich are becoming richer, and because the rich feel the need to take resources away from the poor. It's like straight out of the Bernie Sanders handbook. It's as liberal as it possibly could be.
Yeah, I did kind of get that hint from it. But I didn't think it was that strong. I thought it was, a lot more general than that.
Yeah.